What's up, YouTube? Right now you're hanging with Mr. Jackson. We're going to talk about 18 companies, yo, that benefit for slavery, y'all. And more. We're going to talk about more history, y'all, that we didn't know, y'all. So we like to get into it, man. So let's get it, man. It's going to be 3 videos, 3 quick reactions. So enough of that, man. Let's go and get into it. Let's get it.
Thing to talk about slavery in the abstract, it's another to name the very companies that benefited from the blood, labor, and legacy of our ancestors. These weren't just small-time operations. These are some of the biggest corporations in the world. Many still in business, still making billions, and still serving Black communities today without ever paying the debt that they owe. So let's name 18 of them. Number 1, J.P. Morgan Chase. Their predecessor banks used enslaved people as collateral and took ownership when loans defaulted. Number 2, Wells Fargo via Wachovia. Wachovia admitted it directly benefited from slavery. Some of its original banks owned human beings. Number 3, Bank of America. Several of its predecessor institutions financed slavery and the slave economy. Number 4, CitiBank. Tied to financing the cotton economy, America's most valuable export built entirely on slave labor. Number 5, Barclays, the British multinational that inherited wealth and influence from investments in the slave trade. Number 6, Royal Bank of Scotland. They provided loans and banking services to slave owners and traders. Now let's look at some insurance companies. Number 7, New York Life, formerly Nautilus Insurance, sold over 500 life insurance policies on enslaved people, payable not to their families, but to the slave owners. Number 8, AIG, through acquired firms, sold insurance on enslaved Africans. Number 9, Lloyd's of London, one of the earliest insurer of slave ships and enslaved people during the transatlantic slave trade. Now let's look at some elite universities. Number 10, Harvard University, benefited from donations and endowment funded by slavery. Number 11, Yale University, built wealth through donors, trustees, and faculty involved in slavery. Number 12, Princeton University, educated the sons of wealthy Southern slaveholders and supported slavery ideologically. Number 13, Georgetown University, sold 272 enslaved people in 1838 to pay off debt and recently began effort towards reparation. Number 14, Brown University, published an in-depth study of its own slavery ties, revealing deep involvement. Now let's look at industry and trade. Number 15, Lehman Brothers, began as a cotton broker in Alabama. Cotton was America's #1 export, and it was built entirely on the backs of enslaved Africans. Number 16, CSX Corporation, admitted to using enslaved labor to build its southern railroads. Number 17, Norfolk Southern Railway, also built its infrastructure with the forced labor of enslaved people. Number 18, Canadian National Railway. They're tied through acquisition to railroads in the U.S. South that were built by slave labor. Now let's be clear, these companies didn't just survive the era of slavery, they profited from it, they grew off of it, and many of them continue to profit today, often while serving Black customers, insuring Black homes, and issuing loans to Black businesses without ever fully reconciling the past. So the next time somebody asks you, why y'all still talking about slavery? Because the wealth it created is still moving and we're still catching up. Now drop a Black fist in the comments and share this with some.
Yo, that's crazy. I ain't never knew that about Yale. See, you learn history. You learn something every day, baby. You learn something every. I didn't know that about Yale because I grew up. I was born in South Carolina, but I was raised up in Connecticut. So I was going for Yale. Yale. I got mad friends that graduate from high school with me that work at Yale. Yeah, I never knew that about Yale. But we about to go ahead and get into the next video, y'all.
When the sun goes down, the tide goes down, the dark gather around and they all begin to shout, hey, hey, Uncle Dudley.
White people didn't like to think much about them, sort of like a relative you got in a rest home. I mean, happy darkies, dancing and singing was all they wanted to hear about. Being good Christians, the whites out front liked to think the blacks out back were kind of happy. Uncle Tom's Cabin was one of the first movies made that tried to say anything about Black people. Uncle Tom was changed a little each time it was put on the stage, and all the parts were played by white actors. And by the time they made a movie of it in 1903, Uncle Tom was just the white man's idea of a good nigger. You might say he was what H. Rap Brown ain't. They made this picture 5 times. By the time they finished with it, Mickey Rooney could have played Uncle Tom. Minstrel shows started as a black man's entertainment for himself and the plantation owners. When they were filmed, though, they were done by a white cast. You figure that out. They were done as sort of a joke, and the black entertainer couldn't even get a job making fun of himself. The first really vicious anti-Negro film was called The Birth of a Nation, and it was a honey. And the second worst thing about it was that technically in 1918 it was the best movie that had ever been made. A cat named D.W. Griffith produced it, and he knew how. See? Birth of a Nation pretended to tell the story of the Civil War and what happened afterwards when the slaves were freed. White women couldn't walk on their own sidewalk, if you believe the picture. In the South, Negroes got the right to vote, and the movie showed black vote collectors refusing to accept white votes, and black people sneaking in extra votes. And if these black bad guys don't look very bad to you, it's probably because they were white actors wearing burnt cork. Negro legislators took over in the South, and in the film they were made to look like apes. And this was the movie version of how it looked in the Southern state legislature. They drank whiskey, they ate chicken with their hands in the State House, and they put their feet up on the table with the shoes off. And of course, they passed all sorts of crazy laws according to the film, like anybody could marry anybody they wanted to. It was obvious to anyone who saw this picture that Negroes weren't fit to govern themselves or anyone else because they really weren't people. This film is 50 years old, and it may look silly and out of date now, but it didn't look silly when it was made and seen. Several million Americans who saw it were propagandized to believe that this is the way things would be if they weren't careful. So they've been pretty careful. Colonel Cameron, a former officer in the Confederate Army, is all upset over the way Northerners and the freed slaves are changing his South, taking the mint julep right out of his mouth. So he takes a walk one day while he's worrying about it, and he sees 2 white kids playing, and then 4 black kids come along. Being hardly human and naturally afraid of ghosts, the black kids run. Colonel Cameron sees the whole scene, gets his great idea. And with this, that great white all-American organization, the KKK, was born. Cavalry and the bedsheet has come to the rescue. The South is saved.
Yeah, this is crazy, boy. This is crazy, y'all. And it's nothing like that in these days, y'all. It might be the opposite, but it's nothing like that these days. But we gonna go ahead and get into the next video. But yo, we learning, man. I didn't even knew they made a video like this. I mean, a movie like this. Oh my goodness. All the white people with black faces. I heard about the black faces, but I ain't knew they made a movie about it. And I heard about Uncle Tom. But we gotta get into the next video, y'all.
I hate to ask this question because it's embarrassing. How many of you who are African Americans, how many of you know the African city and country from which your ancestors were born?
Not one hand went up.
Not one hand went up. I asked this question of 500 whites. How many of you know the city and country? I was teaching at a university, a white university. It's that fact. Every hand went up. They knew not only the country from which they came, not only the city, but the borough from which their ancestors. Now, how come they know and none of you know? The reason is that the South Carolina and North Carolina plantation owners went to Germany to find out how they could control our fathers and mothers on the plantation. Because they were getting out of hand. They were burning the houses down. They were killing white folks. They were doing everything negative about being in captivity. They were never slaves. They were prisoners of war. They were never slaves. They were prisoners of war. The War of 1591. So what happened was they sought the advice of an expert in Shanghai history. Now, his name was Johann Blumenbach, and he was the head of the Department of History at the University of Göttingen in Germany. And how many of you know this? I know you was taught this in college and everything, going to college. Well, when they sought his advice,
Right.
they said, do they know that they're the Shanghai people? So the plantation owners who traveled over there to seek his advice said, well, of course they know that they come from the great Shanghai Empire. Well, that's your problem. You can't let them know that they came from greatness, from grandeur, from beauty, from sophistication. You'll never be able to control them. So the plantation owner said, well, how can we prevent it? I mean, the mothers and the fathers would tell the children, say, you came from Timbuktu and you came from the city of Janneh, and that's where we were born. And then the Europeans came over and invaded us in 1591 and marched us to the seas, to the waiting ship. Said, man, you can't allow them to teach that to their children. They said, well, how you going to stop it? I hate to ask this question.
So they probably, I don't know. Kanye West probably was right about slavery. They lie about slavery, y'all. I don't know. Yo, so they convinced us somehow that we not from, like, the way he was explaining, like, y'all, we from a rich family. Like, our ancestors is from like a rich country, y'all, with beauty, money, everything, y'all. And they brainwash us trying to make us seem like we not from there. We were from, I'm thinking we were from Africa, y'all. They took us from Africa. I know they probably did to some people from Africa, but yo, it was already black people here. I know, because I'm black and I'm Cherokee, y'all. So I'm black and Cherokee, but I'm Black American. So I'm really like a Native American. But yeah, I heard stories about my great grandma telling my grandma that black people was already here. That's a myth about us coming from Africa and stuff like that. She said black people was already here. But if y'all don't believe me, y'all can do your own. Just like I say, it's a reaction channel. Y'all can do your own research. But just more here. Just say you can learn something every day, man. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I see you when I see you. Peace. I'm out.